but in fact delivering very little. And so this long-awaited World Bank report, which was leaked a little over the summer, and which the World Bank has now finally released, well, it tells two stories. If you read the press release and if you read the analysis that the World Bank provides, the World Bank suggests that if you allow foreign countries and investors into the poorest countries on earth, the results can be very good. Well, of course, again, the results can be very good, but in fact, if you look at the results, if you look at the data that the World Bank itself presents on the results of these so-called land grabs, the results have been pretty shocking. What the bank observes is that foreign investors are attracted to countries with these weak regulatory systems. 70% of the investment in the foreign investment in land has happened in Africa, and the majority of the responses, the majority of the outcomes in sub-Saharan Africa have been catastrophic. The bank says that none of the sub-Saharan African countries that recently attracted investor interest achieved more than 25% of the gains that were promised. And in fact, things are so bad that Mozambique itself is trying to get some of the land back that it sold to investors because the government is worried that half the land is sitting idle and not growing sugarcane or any of the other crops promised by investors. But of course, one of the worst things is that it's bad enough to have speculators who sit up and buy the land and don't do anything with it. But worse than that is when the speculators do something with the land. And again, what the World Bank observes is that the most vulnerable are hit hard when things like sugarcane crops are being grown in developing countries, because sugarcane is a very thirsty crop, and what investors buy when they buy land for sugarcane is also access to water. And what we've been seeing is that women who collect the water and depend on that collection for their livelihood are now being shut out of their livelihood so that foreign speculators can make money. And that, of course, is the great tragedy of these land grabs, is that they are, again, they compound the inequalities, the human inequalities that already exist in developing countries. And they are a poor substitute for genuine investment in development and in food sovereignty in these countries.
Now, African leaders just concluded an agricultural forum in Ghana calling for greater private investment in farming on the continent. Former UN Secretary-General Kofi Annan is the chairman of the forum, as well as the organization known as AGRA, or Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa. This is how Kofi Annan explained the goals for the forum to a news website.
Africa, if it gets its act together, can feed its own population and help export to the rest of the world. And so I think governments and the business community is taking keen interest in agriculture. And that is what you're seeing here at this forum. Governments are prepared to come in with the right policies, which I hope also means appropriate infrastructure to help the revolution move forward.
That's former UN Secretary-General Kofi Annan. Raj Patel, talk about AGRA, this Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa.
Well, the Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa causes some people, particularly people who are close to it, to wince a little, because the Green Revolution has had some very ambivalent effects. The Green Revolution was the process of creating hybrid crops and imposing those, consolidating farm sizes and relying on incredibly thirsty and incredibly fossil fuel intensive kinds of fertilizer-driven agriculture to boost yields. I was talking to a representative from the Gates Foundation, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, that's been very big in supporting the Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa. And even they have been saying that, well, you know, if they'd had more influence than they in fact have had, the name Green Revolution probably wouldn't feature in this alliance. But nonetheless, what we're seeing through this alliance is a shift towards, away from the kinds of government-sponsored and supported investments that we've seen in the past, towards a sort of private sector-driven approach to investing in agriculture. And you heard Kofi Annan there talking about private sector interest. Well, again, you know, land grabs, as the World Bank report suggests, land grabs are an expression of that global interest in land. And it seems to be AGRA seems to be a Trojan horse for is the privatization of agriculture in Africa. Now, Kofi Annan is exactly right that with the right kinds of policies, with the right kinds of government investment, with the right kinds of public investment, it is possible for Africa to feed itself. And there are, in fact, an abundance of ideas about how food sovereignty, about how democratic control over food and agriculture in Africa might happen. It just so happens that Agra seems to be siding less with some of these ideas coming from African farmers, for example, and much more with the ideas coming from the private sector and coming from organizations like Monsanto. And that, I think, is one of the great tragedies of Agra, is that it's mobilizing public opinion for a set of policies that already seem to have failed pretty badly.
Raj, thank you very much for joining us. Raj Patel, author and activist based in San Francisco. His latest article, Mozambique's Food Riots, The True Face of Global Warming. His books include The Value of Nothing, How to Reshape Market Society and Redefine Democracy, also stuffed in Star of the Hidden Battle for the World's Food System. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, War and Peace Report. Can you be jailed for friending the wrong person? You'll hear the story of Rod Coronado in a minute.
Just enough to lose it all too young. You never wanted anything, never asked for this at all, but they took you anyway, you could only crawl. How can they justify what they've done? Who will remember you when you're gone? They'll just take another, keep on taking more.